Let's dive into one of the most dramatic stories of reversal you'll ever find. It's a wild narrative about a people who are right on the brink of being completely wiped out, who then, in this absolutely stunning turn of events, find themselves celebrating a massive, kingdom-wide victory.
And it all leads up to this one line. Just try to picture it. An entire capital city just erupting in celebration. But this wasn't just any party. The joy we're talking about here was born from a day of incredible violence and pure vengeance. So, how did they get to this point? That's what we're going to break down. So, this story really kicks off with this complete and total power shift. Mordecai, who is the central figure for the Jews, walks out of the king's palace not as a man condemned to die, but as someone with immense authority. And this personal win of his just ignites this chain reaction of celebration across the entire kingdom. Now, what's really fascinating here is how this transformation is described. You've got Mordecai dressed in royal clothes. The Jews are feeling happiness, joy, and honor. There's feasting and parties in every single city. But look at that last point. Many people from other nationalities actually converted. And the text is super explicit about why. Because fear of the Jews had seized them. This joy is built on a foundation of a new and kind of scary power. So how did this all happen? Well, it all comes down to a specific date, a day that had been carefully chosen for the complete destruction of the Jewish people. But when that day finally came, man, the script got flipped entirely. The 13th of Adar, this was the date circled on the calendar, the day their enemies had been waiting for, the day they were finally going to overpower and eliminate them. But when the sun came up, it turned into the exact opposite of what they had planned. And this just lays out the reversal perfectly. The plan was to overpower the Jews. The outcome? The Jews got the upper hand. The text literally says that no one could stand against them. The hunters had officially become the hunted. So you might be wondering, how is a reversal like this even possible? Well, the source points to two main things. First, this widespread fear of the Jews had just taken hold of everybody. But second, and this is probably even more important, the entire political machine, we're talking nobles, governors, the king's own administrators, they were all actively helping the Jews. And why? Because the fear of Mordecai, whose power was now the stuff of legend, had completely taken them over. All right, now let's zoom in on the capital city, Susa, on that fateful 13th day of Adar. This is where that reversal of fortune turns into real, violent action. The violence kicked off right in the capital. On just the first day of fighting, inside the fortified part of Susa alone, the Jews struck down and destroyed 500 of their enemies. And get this, among those killed were 10 very specific people. The 10 sons of Haman, the guy who came up with the whole annihilation plot in the first place. This wasn't random at all. This was personal. Now, here's a detail that the source text makes a point of repeating 3 different times. After all the killing, they took no plunder, no property, no wealth, nothing. This really suggests their motive wasn't about getting rich, but about something else, pure retribution. So the news of the 500 dead, including Haman's 10 sons, gets to the king. He turns to Queen Esther, probably thinking she must be satisfied, and he offers her anything else she could possibly want. He thinks the fight is over. Oh, but he is so wrong.
Seriously, think about that for a second. After such a decisive, brutal victory right there in the capital, what more could she possibly ask for? Her request is, well, it's pretty shocking, and it shows you just how deep her resolve goes. Her request is just stunning. She asks for 2 things. First, one more day. Give the Jews in Susa permission to keep the killing going. And second, a really gruesome public display. She wants the bodies of Haman's 10 sons hung up on poles for everyone to see. And the king? He agrees, just like that.
And so, on the second day, the 14th of Adar, the Jews in Susa gather all over again, and they put to death another 300 men. And again, for the second time, the source is explicit. Even after this second wave of killings, they did not touch the plunder. That principle held firm.
Okay, so while all of this was happening over 2 days in the capital city of Susa, what was going on in the rest of the kingdom, out in the provinces? Well, the conflict there was on an even bigger scale. On that same day, the 13th of Adar, the Jews all throughout the provinces got together, and according to the source, they killed 75,000 of their enemies.
I mean, that is just a staggering number that shows you the immense scale of this coordinated uprising.
So let's just quickly recap the numbers here. The fighting in the capital was intense, for sure, lasting 2 days and leaving 800 dead. But the conflict across the provinces, that was on a whole other level. A single day of fighting there resulted in 75,000 casualties. So what happens after more than 75,000 people are killed? This is where the story takes its final, really fascinating turn. These days of pure vengeance and violence become the direct foundation for an annual holiday of feasting and joy. This timeline really helps make it clear why the celebration has different dates. On the 13th, pretty much everyone fought. But out in the provinces, they rested and partied on the 14th. Since the Jews in Susa fought for that second day, on the 14th, they didn't get to rest and celebrate until the 15th. And that's how you get two distinct traditions. So how is this holiday actually defined in the text? It's called a time of joy and feasting and a day for giving presents to each other. It's described as this purely positive communal celebration, which is pretty incredible considering it was born directly from the violent events we've just gone over. And that leaves us with this final, really powerful question. The source text presents this whole transformation as something natural and righteous. A day of relief from your enemies becomes a time for giving gifts. But it really forces us to think about the complicated relationship between memory, violence, and celebration. How does a day of slaughter become a day of joy? That is the profound question right at the very heart of the story.